Hey, what's up, everybody? So I'm obviously traveling. I'm in my hotel room, and so we're going to be doing this webinar this week as a pre-recorded. And so there, but before we get started, I wanted to pause this video right now, and I want you to go to get a pen and piece of paper, so that because we're going to be doing some doodling, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a very interactive workshop style, and so pause now and go do that. Awesome. Okay. Hopefully you got your pen, you got your paper. We're going to kind of move on to the presentation. All right. How to double your sales in 12 months or less without being overburdened or wasting money. First of all, I want to thank you for your time and for committing to this, because I really think you're going to walk away here with some very tangible assets and ways for you to double, the start of your plan for doubling your sales over the next 12 months or less. And so with that, we're going to kind of dive in, and we're going to start with the bad news, though. And the first thing, there's going to be three items that we really kind of have found out. And the first thing is that sales are unpredictable, right? A lot of cases, sales are either driven by launches or referrals or promotions. It's kind of like that boom or bust kind of marketing, and so there's a lot of up and downs. I don't know if you've ever felt that, but in my case, and a lot of businesses that I've worked with, it's very much the case. The second thing here is that we don't want to be this guy, right? There's a lot of companies out there that sleazy, like used car salesman kind of guy. And so we actually don't do the marketing that we should because of this. And then thirdly, companies just flat out burn cash. And, they're just kind of throwing mud up against the wall and seeing if it sticks. And I'm assuming that if you're on this webinar, if you're watching this video, that you don't necessarily have a ton of cash to burn. And you definitely want to have your company grow and much more cost effective and efficiently over time. So our objective with this, as we kind of continue on with this, is we want the opposite, right? We want sales to be predictable. We want you to know, like down to the dollar, for next month what your sales are going to be, so you can like scale with confidence. Okay. The next thing is that, unlike the sleazy salesman, we want, marketing done right actually builds trust. It builds that brand integrity. And so we definitely want our marketing done right so we can be trusted, right? And then thirdly, we obviously want everything to be as profitable as we can be. Now, is it going to be profitable all the time? Probably not. But we can get it to a point to where, not only are we going to be able to know down to the dollar what next month's profits are going to be or next month's sales are going to be, but we'll know whether or not if it's going to be profitable, and we can move quickly to that. So hopefully that sounds good. If that sounds good to you, why don't you go ahead and just leave a comment below here and give me a thumbs up. All right, so the goal here is, we want you to put you on a path to doubling your sales over the next 90 days, right? Is your sales going to double in the next 90 days? Probably not, right? But we want to be able to come up with a plan that's going to, over the next 12 months or less, be able to double your sales currently. And so right now it's 2021. I want you to be thinking about what 2022 is going to look like for you. All right, so here's a bit of the agenda, what we're going to cover today. And there's three main elements that we're going to really go over. And the first one is obviously, our documented journey. Okay. Second is actionable metrics. And then lastly, we'll kind of dive a little bit into the tools and tactics and how that all relates. All right. Before we get deep into it, though, I do want to introduce myself. My name is EJ. I'm the owner and founder of Blaze Digital Solutions. I've been in this marketing game since about 2008. I've had my hand at a few different startups, and so I definitely know what it's like to fail. And lastly, I am a certified partner with SEMrush, Facebook, Google, and Digital Marketer. And the reason I'm bringing up digital marketers is because a lot of these frameworks, I didn't come up with. Okay, these are tried and true and proven, and I just get the opportunity to license them from Digital Marketer. So, all right, now these are some of the companies that we work with. Why does that matter to you? Well, a lot of these companies utilize this strategies and the things that we're going to talk about today to be able to scale their companies. And these are the companies that this system and these frameworks were proven with, right? And so if these companies, along with the ones that we work with, um, utilize these systems for growth over and over and quarter after quarter, I'm sure that it's going to be good for you. Okay. We just have to execute, right? Just execute. And so before we kind of get deep into those frameworks, though, I want to talk a little bit about you. Now, I have this growth audit. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to kind of pause the video and then draw this growth audit. All right. So hopefully you've got that it drawn. And if not, pause the video, get it drawn, because we're going to kind of do a little, have a little fun, right? So what I want you to do is we'll start with awareness, okay? And I want you to rate yourself between 1 and 5. 1 being you are just completely or terrible at it, and then 5 being you're like the best in class or best in the industry. There's nobody else that can really surpass you, right? And so be honest with yourself, because this is going to kind of be the start of really um, identifying where some holes in the business are. So we'll start with awareness, and I want you to put a dot, where things are going to kind of line up. And so between 1 and 5, how good are you at generating awareness? All right. Next, let's move to engagement. When people come to your website, do they tend to stay? And when you put out content and like videos and things like that, do they get shared? Do your emails get opened? That kind of stuff. So I want you to rate yourself currently between 1 and 5, where you are with engagement. All right, so let's move on to lead generation. Lead generation is the moment where you get their information. It's like, before you take your significant other out on a date, so to speak, when you first kind of met, what was the thing you did, right? You had to get their name and number, right? And so that's kind of what we want to do. So how good are you are getting the contact information for and permission to follow up? So this could be lead capture, things where you're getting an email address, your name and email, or a phone number for SMS, things like that. So between 1 and 5, how good are you at doing that? All right. Awesome. So let's move on to conversion optimization. This is the moment after you get the lead, how well that you are at converting them into a sale. Between 1 and 5, what does that look like? All right, now let's move to the aha moment. Okay, the aha moment is the moment that happens right after the initial sale, and it's the experience that people get that just makes it click for them to be like, yes, this is amazing. This is exactly what I've been looking for. In a lot of companies, they actually don't necessarily have an aha moment or know exactly what that is. But if you understand what that is, kind of rate yourself between 1 and 5 and how well you are at delivering that over and over again. And with that, if you don't necessarily understand what the aha moment is, I would just put a 1 just for now. All right, now let's move to the ascend and expand. So after they buy your, after they buy something from you, right? They have that great aha moment, that great experience. Um, how well are you at getting them to ascend and, the retention and getting them to buy again and again? So rate yourself and be honest between 1 and 5. How well are you at doing that? All right. Now let's move on to referrals or reviews and testimonials, right? We'll go to reviews and testimonials. So this is pretty self-explanatory. How good are you at getting reviews and testimonials for your product or service or whatever you're offering? Between 1 and 5, what does that look like? All right. Now, lastly, we're going to tap into the referrals, right? This is another pretty self-explanatory piece. Between 1 and 5, what does that look like? All right. Now, what I want to do is going to be kind of fun. Okay. And if you're still kind of figuring it out, feel free to pause the video and, really dial in like where we feel you truly are. But if you got them all the dots in the place, let's start connecting the dots. Okay, this is going to end up being a pretty cool graphical representation of really where our holes are at. Let's go ahead and connect the dots. Now, in a lot of cases, the holes generally aren't going to be around awareness, I would say, even though yours might, right? But whatever yours looks like, you should be able to really see the indents and the kind of um, formation around that to where you're going to really know like, oh, I really need help with conversions, or I really need just better leads because we're really good at converting, or hey man, like we need to deliver better on this aha experience because that's the disconnect between us and actually selling more to our customers. And so but now I want you to do, because in a perfect world, right, which it's never going to be perfect. No business is ever going to be perfect at all times, right, or at any given time. Um, but what I want you to do is just put a dot around all the fives, okay? And then after you get all those dots put, I want you to just connect those dots. And this is just a representation of kind of a wheel, right? And so if you look at it, um, in a perfect world, right, the wheel's going to go round and round. It's going to have no issues, right? But what does your current situation look like? And just be honest with yourself. Is that really in a position to where if that was a wheel, it would turn very well? And just answer yes or no in the comments. Like if you're already good to go and you're 100% and you're perfect, hey man, you can probably bounce off this video. But if you see some holes, I encourage you to stay, because we're going to dive into some frameworks here that's really going to help and connect, literally connect the dots on how you can get your business to really grow and to double your revenue this next year. So the framework. Okay, let's dive into this a little bit. Now we call it the growth triad. Okay, and this isn't my framework, right? Ryan Dice and the team over at Digital Marketer actually came up with it. But it just works, right? And it makes a lot of sense. So, but the first thing I want to kind of go over is, as you kind of maybe have guessed it from the agenda, is the documented journey, right? You must have a documented journey to where you can say, like, this is where customers are created and this is where they go after they're created, right? Um, this is how they hear about us, and this is kind of like how they get to know us, right? Now, the second thing that people need along with their customer or documented journey is going to be your actionable metrics. Okay, now we see a lot of companies with dashboards and tracking vanity metrics and doing all that. And we don't want to be doing that, right? We want to be able to track actionable things that push our business forward. And then the last thing is the tools and tactics, right? This is going to be stuff like, your SEO and your Facebook ads and, your TikTok strategy and all that kind of stuff, right? Your email marketing is, your cool tools and tactics with that, like our abandoned cart sequence and this and that. And I hope you get the picture there, right? And so, but in our experience, most business owners, all they want to do is kind of like focus on the tools and tactics. And, you know, when we do that, it becomes kind of a problem, right? So let's kind of take a look at what this kind of looks like. Because sometimes, we may have one or we may have, kind of in the middle of some. And if we're looking at it saying, you know what, I've got like a documented journey and I've got actionable metrics, but the tools and tactics is kind of, missing, so to speak. We would be kind of, considered somewhat stuck in the mud, right? Now, let's kind of look at, it's like, hey, you know what, EJ, I've got a documented journey. I'm freaking a stud at tools and tactics. And hey, that's awesome. Tools and tactics are my thing too. So that's pretty rad. But if you have those two and you don't have actionable metrics, you are kind of a bull in a china shop. Like flat out, you're just kind of throwing mud up against the wall and seeing if it sticks, right? And then lastly, if you kind of find yourself between like, well, I am tracking stuff and I am doing like the tools and tactics, but I don't necessarily have that documented journey, which is fairly common, to be quite honest. You're going to kind of hit that one-hit wonder. The one-hit wonder is really all about, when you have that awesome product launch, right? And things go really, really well. And then you try to duplicate it. And then you're like, what did we do? How did we do that? Because we didn't get the same results. Something went wrong here. And it's really hard and difficult to kind of figure out. And so that's why it's so important to have a documented journey with that, because, you can't improve anything or you can't duplicate or replicate anything if it's not documented, right? So the goal here is we want to have kind of that perfect piece in the center. That's where we're going to achieve that predictable growth and be able to double our sales over and over and over again. All right, now let's kind of go into the documented journey. So the framework we use is the customer value journey, okay? And, this is the picture of it. And we're going to actually kind of dive into this a little bit. And I'm going to have you draw this here in just a second. But what this does is it really aligns, the interests and the shared vocabulary, and it really makes it to where it's kind of like a roadmap, right? And so if it gets from point A to point B, and then we can kind of optimize along the way. So let's kind of take a look at that. Because the one thing you have to remember here with this and why this is so important is that you can't have predictable growth if you haven't first documented how, your strangers become prospect and prospects become customers and all that kind of stuff, right? So here we have 8 stages: from awareness, engage, subscribe, convert, excite, which is our aha moment, the ascend, advocate, and promote stages. These stages are built around really the laws of intimacy. So if you're thinking of like a human reaction, with your significant other, for example, you're not going to go from, just kind of like looking at them to immediately kind of, doing the big thing, right? So you have to kind of treat your customers the same way. And so sequencing matters big time. And so I wanted to I want you to take a minute here, to pause the video, and I want you to kind of draw this on one of your sheets of paper. All right. So if you haven't drawn it, pause this video again and draw it, right? Because we're going to kind of dive into this a little bit. But I kind of wanted to kind of roll into what this looks like right here. And this is a very, very basic example just to kind of get the point across so you can kind of understand what should be in these stages, right? So prospect sees you in an ad, this could be at a trade show, this could be, a referral, they hear about you from referral, all those kind of things, a TV ad even, if those things even exist anymore, I don't know. And then once they see an ad, they go read a blog post, or they engage with you, or they watch your video. There's some kind of engagement there. They open your emails, right? And then from there, we ask them for their contact information. So it's like, hey, I saw you over there, and we're kind of having a really cool conversation. Hey, why don't you get your number? Maybe we can go on a date sometime, right? So that's the kind of methodology we got to kind of think about. And then we get them to convert, right? This is based off of either time or money, right, on the convert stage. And so this is really where we take them on the first date. And when you take someone on the first date, what's the thing you want to do? You want to give them this really awesome experience. And this is the aha moment, right? We want them to experience the great things that we have, so that we'll have the permission, right? Or it'll be their idea to be like, hey, you know what? This was really awesome. Let's go on another one. And this is where they kind of push into our core offer, and we can continue to upsell, expand, and retain them. And then from here, we kind of move into the advocate stage. What's the advocate stage? Well, this is where we get them to say nice things about us, right? And so this is, they're going and giving us a testimonial, so to speak. And then if we do this right, the next stage is where they essentially become like raving fans for us. So where they're actively promoting our business. They're, I don't know if you've ever had a time where, you're at camp, or, you're over at a friend's house or something like that, and they just couldn't help but to tell you about this really cool product, and the really cool like customer experience that they have. Be like, yeah, these guys, I call them, they were awesome, and I couldn't, recommend them, more. So this is essentially what we want to do. And if we take people through this, we are going to be able to not only optimize, but we're going to be able to figure out really those things that, to be able to, I don't you want to call it, grow and scale and things like that, right? So what I want you to do right now is I want you to take a minute and start filling out, where you are currently, or where you feel like you're currently at. So go ahead and pause the video here, and take a few minutes and just kind of try to fill these things out. All right. So hopefully that was enough time. If you need to pause it again, but right now what we want to do is we just want to make sure that this process is kind of clear. And so what I want you to do is just comment down below, like, what did you put in the convert stage? Or what do you have in the engage stage? How are you creating awareness? Put that stuff in the comments, because I kind of want to see where you're at, and where, uh, potentially, where we could help you. So go ahead and do that right now. And then while you're doing that, I'm going to kind of move on to the next step, right? When we have our customer journey and we've kind of put all the pieces together with that, what's the next step? Actionable metrics. So this is such an important piece of the puzzle, right? And what we use here, at Blaze, is the growth scorecard. Again, we kind of stole this from Digital Marketer, but this is what we use. This is what we use for our clients. But one thing you kind of notice about this, right, is if you look on the left, you can kind of see the stages of the customer journey. And there's going to be up to 3 metrics within each stage. The most important metrics. Of course, you're going to probably want to, track more metrics, outside of this. But this growth scorecard really is just to track the most important actionable metrics for each stage. And then if you look over on the right, well, as you look over on the right, you'll notice at the top you have these dates, right? So we're going to be tracking these every single week to make sure that we're going to be on track. Okay, and we're going to create targets, and then we're going to kind of see as the month goes on where our actuals are, or where our actuals land. And then the coolest part about this is the status. So as we kind of get closer and closer, we can see really quickly. And so this is where you can give to the executive team, or you can kind of give to the uppers to see exactly, hey, where are we at with this? And if you see red, guess what? That's bad. Why is that bad? What's going on? And so with that, if we can see red in a lot of red in certain stages, that's an indication that something's wrong there. And that's where we can go and utilize our tools and tactics, right? This is all the cool stuff that everybody gets so excited about. But with the customer journey and the growth scorecard, we can actually focus on areas where we're essentially going to make the biggest bang for our buck. It's the areas that actually need help, because in most cases, in really a lot of cases, everybody thinks they just need more traffic. Hey, if I get more traffic, I'm going to get more sales, and the world's going to be better for it, right? But in a lot of cases, it's like, no, we actually need, the subscribe stage. We actually need to come up with a better core offer, or uh, hey, our promote stage really needs some work. And so that's where we can go in and take these tools and tactics and implement them for those stages specifically to increase those numbers that we're tracking. So hopefully that makes a lot of sense. Because when I first saw this, holy cow, it was such an eye opener, right? So with that, it's your turn, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at your growth audit. Okay. And then I want you to take a look at what you put in your customer journey. Okay. And I want you to write down the one area that you need the most work on. And I'll give you a couple minutes to kind of get that done. And then once you have that, I want you to put that in the comments. If you feel comfortable with that, put the area where you really need the most help with. All right, so we've gone over the customer journey. Now, this is a really cool thing, right? But one thing that really kind of rings true is clarity through this whole process. You can see hopefully how clarity is so critical. Okay. We want to be able to optimize and grow our companies. Okay. But we can't do that without first documenting it and tracking every bit that we can. Otherwise, we're just going to be throwing mud up on the wall, and we're just going to be kind of shooting in the dark, right? That's why so many companies, they burn cash, okay? And they don't do the things they actually need to do. And they kind of get that shiny object syndrome type, right? We want to stay away from that. We want everything to be crystal clear on where the company's going. This customer journey really is a document where, if you do it right, you can give this to anybody in the company, and within a few minutes, they're going to know exactly, at least for this customer avatar, right? Because you have a customer journey for every customer avatar that you have, and so if you're like, hey, we're going after this particular audience, and this is how we gain our customers, this is what we do to get them excited, and how we ascend them and make them raving fans, essentially. And that's a really cool thing to bring unity within a company. How do I know? Because I've done it with my own company. I'm currently doing it with my own company, and I've seen it in other companies and how it really brings everybody together. Now, the customer journey has 8 stages to it, right? And I want you to kind of dream a little bit at this moment. So let's say we're able to just double awareness. Okay. What would that do for your company? what would that do for the organization? We doubled the amount of people that became aware of you. Could be a cool thing, right? What if we doubled engagement? That would be awesome, right? We double awareness, we double the amount of people engaging with our business. You can see how, like, even with just those two things alone with your current systems, you'd probably make a few more sales, right? But let's say, we doubled every single stage along the way. Wow. This is where we really get to that exponential growth, right? Because we have 8 stages and we're doubling each stage. That's, you know, I don't know, 2 to the power of 8. And so what is that? It's 256x growth. Now, obviously that's pretty ridiculous, right? But as you can see, like, what if we just doubled one, right? What if we just doubled your convert stage, for example? What would that do for your business? What if we increased each stage by 10%? Now, obviously, like a 256x increase in a business is really kind of crazy, right? But you can see how technically, the potential for that. And so at least doubling is pretty straightforward, right? As you can probably see. So hopefully at this point, you can see why we call this like a comprehensive framework for growth. Okay. By optimizing each stage of the value journey, we're optimizing each variable in the growth formula. And so, therefore, growth isn't just predictable at this point. Okay? It's inevitable. Like, by the laws of nature, like, it has to happen. And I hope you can see that. Now, how do we do this? How do I do this? How should you do this? Well, you pick one thing, one stage, and you focus on that. Okay, we do it one stage at a time. This is where, a lot of this times when we talk about shiny object syndrome and, oh, we got this cool tactic with TikTok and all this other stuff. And we get kind of sidetracked and it's like, oh, we want to try all these things. And we're going to constantly have all those things coming at us. But what I challenge you to do right now is pick one thing to focus in on your business and complete that bridge completely. Okay. We don't want any more half-built bridges in your business. And so, but with that said, let's kind of go into the next steps. We actually do this for our clients. We call it the 90-day growth accelerator. And what this looks like really, and this is something that you could probably look at if you wanted to try this on your own and go through this process. This is what the first 90 days really would look like, right? The first 30 days is all about creating all those cool documents, right? Now, with us, since you've already kind of started the process, hopefully you're getting a whole lot out of this, right? But then the next 30 days, so after you've kind of really built out your customer journey, you have your growth scorecard, your actionable metrics, we can kind of dive in and really, we really kind of look at the middle stages, right? From through stages 3 through 5. So it's the subscribe, convert, and excite stages, right? And we really focus in on the convert and the excite stages where we can really make a big impact. And then from there, we should have some pretty actionable metrics to be able to push what's going to be working for us. So this is where, the last 30 days, we kind of build into those tools and tactics and really accelerate and bring more awareness. Because the reason why we do it this way is because what we found is, if we started with awareness, we started with those, first couple stages, what we end up doing is kind of pouring water into a leaky bucket. And we really want to kind of stay away from that. Now, if this sounds like super interesting to you, what I invite you to do is go to this website or scan that QR code. And I want you to go and schedule a discovery session, where we can really dive deep into your specific business and see if this is really a fit for you. I really hope you've gotten a lot out of this. If you've gotten value out of this in any degree, I want you to give this a thumbs up. Put a comment down below of the things you got, that was most beneficial for you. Even though it's kind of like stumbling through this, um, you know, I like these webinars to be live mostly, and so I kind of treated this more as a live webinar, so you can see the real me. And so hopefully it was beneficial. I definitely hope to see you or talk with you in a discovery session. And if you have any questions about anything, you can comment below, or you can just go to our website and contact our support team. We'd be happy to answer any questions and kind of get you, moving on the next steps for your business. So again, good luck this upcoming year, and we'll see you later.